Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Heriot-Watt University, Malaysia. We're actually live now on Facebook, and we also have a few people on campus here. Let me just introduce myself. My name is Foo Yin Fah, and I'm the associate head of the School of Social Sciences, and also the head of the Edinburgh Business School in Malaysia. Okay? I have a few years of experience in accounting. So I'm a trained accountant by profession, and I've got about 10 years working in the accounting profession. And then after that, I came to teaching. So I've got 20 odd years teaching in accounting courses and all that in various places. So I've got a little bit of experience in both as a practitioner in accounting as well as an educator in accounting. So my talk today is actually going to be about the accounting profession. So I want to tell you a little bit about the accounting profession, what it is, what do they do, and also share with you a little bit about the future of work of the accounting profession. And then the second part of the talk will be on what if you want to study accounting, right? What are the courses that you study and how do you become a professional accountant, right? So that's my talk today. And for those of you on Facebook Live, you can post questions to me online. There will be a link to the Pigeonhole, right? And you can post your questions there, and I'll try and answer as many of those questions as we can at the end of the talk, right? And for those in the hall, you can always ask me live, right? So let's start. So first of all, maybe we ask this first question, which is who is an accountant? What do they do, right? So many people, I don't know your own experiences, in terms of speaking to friends, families, and all that. Who is an accountant? What do they do, right? So the traditional tendency is that accountants are boring people. They are bean counters, They sit around just keying figures into the computer, ensure things balance, and they are very particular, okay? They are very particular about things being in the right place, and they all the figures must be balanced, right? So that's the maybe the conventional view of what an accountant does. Yeah. And it doesn't help that in many motion pictures, in many films from Hollywood, they portray accountants, in quite a unique manner, right? So those of you who watched The Accountant, and you've watched the movie, and the movie is about this accountant who is a little bit unique in character, a little bit OCD, and he goes around and it's just double life and all that. And then if you go back to an older film, Untouchable, many years ago, I don't know whether some of the younger people here would have watched it. You see accountants are, very meek people, right? Normally have thick glasses and not much hair, and they all, work on books, and they again balance books and all that stuff. So that's the view of the accounting profession by many people for many years already. But what I want to do is share with you some modern day accountants, right? So accountants that I've known and I've read about, and I've met some of them, and show you that they are far from all this, right? So let me give you a few examples. One, of course, is 2 years ago, there was a new governor of Bank Negara that was appointed, right? So you should know her name. And Datuk Nur Samsiah Muhammad Yunus, right? She's the Bank Negara governor. But did you know that she was trained as an accountant? She's a member of CPA Australia, right? And worked many years as an accountant herself before venturing into looking after, the finances of the country. So that's one example. A more famous example that many people would know would probably be this guy, right? And this guy, you know him as the founder of Air Asia. Okay, so Tony Fernandes, you know him as this slogan, "Everyone can fly." Okay, but did you know that he was trained as an accountant? Okay, so his initial career was actually as an accountant in the UK, right? And then he moved into the music industry and all that, right? So these people have started out as an accountant as well. And closer to home, my previous employer, Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia, right, who is the founder of the Sunway Group. Yeah, he's an entrepreneur. He's got a conglomerate that he runs. And if you go to Bandar Sunway, is an oasis, where there's so many things, so many types of businesses. But he was trained as an accountant. Okay, he was trained as an accountant in Australia, came back to Malaysia in the 80s, and he worked for a while as an accountant. Yeah, so I wanted to show you these because I wanted to demonstrate to you that accountants today are not just as bookkeepers, as bean counters. They are entrepreneurs. They are leaders in their field. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to share with you. And if you look at some of the data that's coming out, if you look at some of the large companies in Malaysia, many of their leaders, many of the board of directors are actually accountants. Okay, so accountants, therefore, are looked upon as people who know business very well, right? Because they know how profits are calculated, how business transactions and commerce and industry will affect the bottom line. And they are the best people to actually manage and lead companies, right? So 1 in 4 members of the board of directors of the top 100 companies in Malaysia, they have accounting qualification. So they were trained as an accountant before. Right. So now so this is, trying to change the perception of accountants a little bit for you, right? From bookkeepers to actually business leaders. Now let's look at the profession itself, right? If you want to join the accounting profession, how does it look like, right? And how many people that you are going to join, right? Now, it's a global profession, number one, right? It's similar to a legal profession, similar to a medical profession. Right? So you join this profession, and this profession is across the world, and there are much more now. There are more than 3 million qualified, professionally qualified members across the world, right? And they are in almost all countries. Okay, any country that is involved actively in commerce and industry will need accountants. Okay, so it's a global profession. Then the next question you ask is, wow, there are 3 million of them. What do they do actually? Right? So just imagine if you think that all they do is bookkeeping. There's so many people counting beans. Okay, but they do more than that, right? So what do they do? Now you can classify them into various categories. Now a group of them, you will normally find them in public practice. Okay, those are people who work in global accounting firms such as Pricewaterhouse, Ernst & Young, Deloitte, and KPMG, right? So I'm sure you have heard of some of these firms. So what do they do there? Okay, so these people will be there providing their services as an accountant. And what sort of services do they provide? They provide services such as auditing, all right, where you go in and you check on, you examine the books of other businesses and make sure that they are in order, all right? They will also look at things like taxation, right? Working out the tax that you need to pay as individuals and as companies as well, right? So that's the other thing that they do. And they also consult businesses, how to improve their businesses, how to be more efficient in managing their business. So all these things are what they do in public practice, right? So if you qualify as a professional accountant, you can also join any of these firms. And there are many of them. This is the bigger accounting firms. There are some mid-sized accounting firms such as BDO, such as Grant Thornton and all that, and Crowe Horwath. Okay, and they're all growing as well. And there are also many smaller, small firms as well. Okay, so there's a lot of opportunity there as well. And then the next group of accountants would largely work in industry, right? So they are the accountants, they are the finance manager, they are the finance director, right? And they work in companies, industry, right? So things like Alibaba, Apple, and Shell, but not just large companies, but also SMEs, small, medium-sized companies and all that. So any business will need someone to handle their finance and their accounts, right? So they can also work there, okay? And then maybe not so large group, but increasingly larger is they work in government, right? So they also work in government, looking after the treasury or matters relating to budgets and all that. Yeah, and finally, maybe a smaller group of them, like me, will work in universities as academics to teach, but also as academics to do research to advance accounting, because accounting, as I said, is beyond bookkeeping and it's always changing, right? So these are the four areas where a lot of professional accountants work, right? And there's one last area that I didn't put in here, which is an area where people like Tony Fernandez and people like Jeffrey Chia are, which is becoming an entrepreneur, not doing anything actually directly related to accounting itself, right? So one of the things that you need to understand is learning about accounting, being qualified as an accountant also open doors for you to start up new businesses, go into new areas as well, all right? So that's where the accountants are globally. Then you may ask, okay, so in Malaysia, right? So it's more than 3 million accountants across the world. What about in Malaysia? How many of them are in Malaysia? So in Malaysia, we have close to about, I think, again, the number may have grown already, between 33 to 34,000 qualified members, right? These are members of a professional body called the Malaysian Institute of Accountants. Now, what happens is that all accountants in Malaysia, you need to be a member of the MIA, Malaysian Institute of Accountants, in order to practice as an accountant, right? And it's very regulated. It's regulated by the Accountants Act. Yeah. So there are about 34,000 members there. And I'll just share with you some statistics just to have a feel of who these 34,000 members are. Now, almost two-thirds of them are working in industrial areas, all right? And of course, in Malaysia, the largest commerce area where business are is the Klang Valley. Okay, so most of these accountants work in the Klang Valley, but they also work in large towns like Johor, Penang, KK, or even Kuching, right? So where businesses are, you will find most accountants. Okay, so that's where they are. And interestingly, they are majority women. Okay, so accountants, as far as the profession is concerned, more than half of the members are actually women, right? Why is that so? I'm not quite sure, right? Maybe the perception is women are more detailed, more organized, right? Men is a bit, all over the place. But they are majority women. And they are increasingly getting younger in age because we have more and more members coming in, right? So more and more joining the profession. So the age is also reducing. But the final one I want to share with you is 2/3 of the members are working in industry and commerce. I mentioned to you just now in companies, large companies, multinationals, small, medium-sized companies, right? So they are working in industry. They are not necessarily in the profession in KPMG and Pricewaterhouse. Okay, so really, if you become a professional accountant, you are going to be working in industry and not necessarily just in the accounting firms. So that's a snapshot of the Malaysian accountants right now. So the next question you have is perhaps saying, okay, all right, so there are more than 3 million globally. I don't know whether that's a big number or a small number to you. And then you find, okay, there are 34,000 accountants in Malaysia. And being someone who is deciding whether you want to study in accounting or not, maybe the question is that, do we need more people? Right? Is there more opportunity? Is there demand for the accounting profession? So the Malaysian Institute of Accountants many years ago calculated roughly, estimated that by the time we become developed nation status, we need about 60,000 accountants. All right. So a few years back, the target was 2020. All right. So in a blink of an eye, it's now 2020, and obviously we've not reached the 60,000 yet. So there's an informal, policy or whatever that says maybe push that figure now is being pushed to another 10 years to achieve the 60,000, right? So the point is that we need more trained accountants, more well-trained accountants in Malaysia, and we need to literally double up the number. Okay, so as far as job prospect is concerned, demand is concerned, my personal opinion is that there is a lot of demand still there. Okay, but good accountants, well-trained accountants. So that's demand. Now, again, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the future, right? Because some of you may have read articles and reports coming out by global bodies such as the World Economic Forum that might indicate that maybe there is no need for the accountants any longer. Okay, why? Because of the impact of technology. Yeah, the advancement of technologies, big data, and all that. Some people say that, well, we don't really need accountants anymore, right? So the computer can actually do most of the work. And the answer is probably right in the sense that the technology will take over a lot of the work, all right? But these are going to be recurring work, repetitive work, okay? It's not necessarily going to take over all the work of the accounting profession. Now, what happens is that ACCA did a study a few years back, right? And they looked at the situation and then they projected and they looked at the future. And they came out with a report which says that what are the factors that is impacting the accounting profession and what's the prospect for the accounting profession moving forward. And I want to share a couple of things from there. Number one, what are the drivers of change, right? So there are three drivers of change that will impact the accounting profession. One is that because of all these, many years ago in 2008, there was a huge financial crisis, right? That impacted the financial sector, the banks and all that. Even before that, there's a lot of crisis about mismanagement of companies and all that. So there's now increasingly regulating the governance of companies, all right? And the people most affected, not just the companies, but the accountants, because they are now increasingly looking towards the accountants to provide the leadership and the governance. All right? So there's more reporting needs to be done. And the reporting is not only financial in nature, it's non-financial as well. So if you want to become a good accountant, it's not just numbers. Numbers is very important, but you also need to know how the numbers link to business, how to link to the society and the community. All right, so there's more regulation and governance, and there's a higher expectation of the accounting profession. The second impact to the accounting profession is that it's no longer, isolated into countries because companies are being global now. Right, even a small SME now will source materials from somewhere else, in China, in different countries. All right, so you will need to deal and work with people in different cultures. And when you come up with policies, you understand the impact to various countries. So you need to understand different cultures, right? So that's the second thing that we need of professional accountants, that you are not just looking at numbers, but understand cultures and economies in different countries and different regions. And finally, the last one, which is perhaps, if not most important, is the technology. It's going to change the way we do accounting. Right, so it's no longer, focusing on bookkeeping because a lot of the information can be done by technology. It's more now about interpreting the numbers, advising the CEOs or board of directors what to do with those numbers. Right, it's also reporting not just numbers, but how all these numbers integrate together. All right, so technology has impacted the way we do accounting, but it doesn't eliminate the accounting profession at all, right? So with all these three changes, right? First thing first, it transforms the old way of doing things. Okay, so things like reporting, bookkeeping, right, which is traditionally what people think accountants only do, will be reduced in terms of what we do, all right, and a lot more technology is going to be involved. Okay, so this part of the job will be eliminated to some extent, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because it's, some people would think that keying numbers on the computer is quite a boring work. Yeah, it's repetitive, day in, day out, is the same thing, right? So technology is being used to replace that so that we can have more time to do more forward-looking things. So it's going to transform the way accountants do things, and the future skills that we need for the accounting profession will include all of these things. right? So if you look at it, I'll speak about a few of them. Is accountants tend to look into the past, previously. Okay, we just look at what happened in the past, we record it down, and we report it. All right, but increasingly now we are asked to look into the future, right? Project and even valuing. Okay, we are asked to now value things that we record, assets that we report, using future values, not just past or historical values, right? So it has to be forward-looking. You have to be strategic now. You have to be business-minded. You cannot just look at the numbers alone, okay? And there's a lot more professional judgment because artificial intelligence and computer can take over a lot of the repetitive work, but it cannot take away professional judgment. So professional judgment is going to be very important. And then your character, your integrity, your independence, because increasingly heavier responsibility is placed on accountants to safeguard the value and assets of the organization. So you need integrity, right? More reason to have integrity. You have to be multicultural now. Right? So you need to go into an environment where you learn about working with people from different cultures, right? Which looks at things slightly differently. And lastly is leadership and communication. So many people think that accountants, when I want to do accounting because I don't have to speak and I don't have to communicate with people, right? And traditionally accountants are in the back room. Okay, but as I've shown you now, the three examples of modern accountants today is that they are forward-looking, they are front-facing. They're not just backdoor, backroom people. So your leadership and your communication skills need to be strong as well. So this is the image, the future of the accounting profession, right? And if you have those characteristics, then the profession is really, really, suited for you. So now maybe the question is that, so how do I get on board, right? So how do I study for this profession? How do I join this profession? And I guess most of you, some are doing UAC, some are maybe you've got your SPM results and you've got lots and lots of A's, it's overflowing A's, and you're thinking, so what do I do next if I want to join the accounting profession? Now, normally for the someone want to start out in accounting and want to start studying accounting, they're often in the dilemma. Okay, what are the dilemma is that they often have two routes that they are considering, right? One route is what we call the professional route. So after SPM, for example, you may be thinking, oh, I want to do ACCA, right, full-time, okay? And immediately take all the professional exams and then become accountant straight away, right? So if you want to take the professional route, then typically what you do is after SPM, for example, you will probably want to consider courses such as CAT, the Certified Accounting Technician or Foundation in Accounting, and then continue with the 13 papers in ACCA. You can also do now ICAW full-time, right? And then after that, you finish all your exams, and then you work for 3 years, and then you become a qualified accountant, right? So that's the professional route. Okay, and on this side, on the left-hand side here, you will find that there is also a increasingly large group of people who prefer the university route. What is the university route? The university route is instead of directly going into the professional pathway, you want to now spend some time in university. All right. So if you want to spend some time in university, then if you're SPM, then your route would be to do some sort of pre-university qualification. So if you're SPM, you may do our foundation, for example, or do any other pre-university. If you are in UEC, then you finish your UEC, then you would have considered to be, at the pre-university level as well. And then you proceed on to degrees, right? In terms of degrees, most private universities in Malaysia, degree is 3 years, okay? Most of the accounting degrees. Public universities, they have also accounting degrees. Some of them are 4-year accounting degrees, right? So between 3 and 4 years. And after that, if you wanted to pursue the accounting profession, you then have to do some professional papers, but you don't have to do all of them, all right? So you get exemption. So for example, for ACCA, there are 13 papers. You normally get 9 papers exempted, and you do another 4 papers, all right? And after that, you can then start working, gain your experience, and you become a professional accountant. So these are the two pathways that most students will have to face, especially in Malaysia, and maybe uniquely in Malaysia, right? Because other countries, some countries, they only have university route. So how do you choose, right? So what's your choice like? Now, I don't have an answer for you, okay? But what I do have is I have 3 questions that you will have to ask yourself in order to make that choice, right? So what are the 3 questions? The 3 questions. The first 2 questions, maybe the parents will answer, right? Because it has to do with cost, okay? And related to cost is duration, okay? So it's a cost and duration thing. Of course, the longer you are, then the higher your cost. Okay. Now, I won't go into too much detail. You can ask me, you can do Q&A later on, but in terms of cost and duration, if you look at the professional pathway, if you go to the professional pathway, potentially you can do it faster, right? How much faster is that if you want to do ACCA, for example, you can do the ACCA 13 papers in about 2 years' time, possible, right? But provided everything goes smoothly for you. I always joke that, the sea must be calm like the Putrajaya Lake, all right? And your boat just, goes straight. But if you suddenly have turbulence, then it might take a bit longer, okay? So in terms of duration, it can be fast, if you want to do the professional pathway, and therefore the cost would be lower, right? So in the university program is 3 years sometimes. So if you go to public university, it's 4 years. Okay, so minimum is 3 years, and most university programs are, maybe the cost is rather high, right, compared to the professional courses. So this two, if you just focus on these 2 criterias, most of you, if you have constrained finance and all that, may consider the professional pathway. But it's the third consideration that probably will make the deal. Right? And what is that third consideration is your experience itself. So what are you looking for in the next 4 to 5 years of your learning? All right? Because the experience is going to be different. Okay? Let's start with the professional experience. So if you're going to go full-time focusing on professional papers, then your experience will be that it's very exam-based. Right? It's most of the time 100% exam. They're 100% exam. But some colleges and some institutions might put in some coursework in there, but it's largely exams. And it's very highly technical in nature with accounting and finance, right? So you have to be good in that, and you have to be good in exams. Okay? Some are very, fantastic exams. Some, get very nervous and stressful in exam. So it's about exams and preparing for your exams and doing past exam questions. Right? So that's largely the description of your experience if you're doing professional. But if you're going to do university education, right, then it's more than that. Okay? So it's more holistic in nature. Right? And what you do is you not only look at the technical side, and of course there are exams, but the exams are spread out. So you've got coursework component as well as final exam component. And in the coursework, you will actually do projects. You will work with people. Remember, I told you that you're not a backroom person. You have to know how to work with people that may not want to work with you, right? So you learn that skill, okay, by working in teams. And you do communicate, you do reports, you do research, you do reports, you present the reports, right? So you practice a lot of things, okay? So the experience is very different. So the question is, what sort of experience do you want? And whether you can afford to pay for that experience or not. Right. My background is I was trained as an accountant from a professional pathway. So many years ago when I started my accounting profession, actually there wasn't any university. There were very few universities, and there were mainly only professional pathway. And the professional pathway also, there was no full-time courses. So what I had to do was I had to do what is called articleship, which is like an apprenticeship. Right? So if you want to become a mechanic, you apprentice with another seafood mechanic, and they ask you to do all sorts of things, and then you learn the ropes as you go along. So that's how I started as well. So I joined an accounting firm. They pay me very, very little, but I had to do a lot of things. But what they did was they trained me. They gave me courses, and I took the professional exam. So my background is really from a professional pathway. I never went to the university until I did my master's and my PhD. right? But when I now teach and I look at the university education experience, how I wish I would have experienced that myself, right? The only challenge, of course, is that it's an expensive pathway, okay? So that's something you need to consider. So in summary here is that between a university pathway and a professional pathway, both pathways will give you the same outcome in a way, because you will come out qualified as an accountant, all right? But your learning experience is different, okay? So that's your choice. What learning experience do you want? Right, now I'm going to come to probably the last few slides. If you can permit me, let me talk to you a little bit about Heriot-Watt University and what Heriot-Watt University can offer you in terms of what I just said, right? In terms of the future of accountants and the skills that is needed. A little bit of history with Heriot-Watt University. It's a really old university with a good, fantastic reputation. Next year we'll be celebrating our bicentennial, right? And we started out really in the 1800s, 1821. And if you study history around that period sort of mirrors what we are experiencing the last few years here, right? Excluding COVID-19, but the last few years here, where everyone was talking about Industrial Revolution 4.0, which is the onslaught of artificial intelligence and technology and all that. Now, during that time, it was also a transformation time. It was a time that the economy, it was transforming from a farming economy, agriculture-based, right, into industrial-based. Right? Because during that time was the time when they first invented machines that can manufacture things at the large scale. All right? So people were also thinking, okay, I can't do farming anymore. What do I do, right? And how do I join this manufacturing people working? I don't have the skill. So Heriot-Watt was formed actually to provide knowledge, provide skills, to transfer, to move people from an agriculture-based economy into an industry economy, industrial-based economy. So we started out as that, and we were very applied in nature. We don't only teach theory, we of course teach theory, but we also teach application, how it's applied. So that's a little bit of background of that. And we are in three main locations, right? So there are several campuses in Scotland, but our main campus in Scotland is Edinburgh, right? And then after that, we opened our Dubai campus, I think more than 10 years ago, maybe, right? So Dubai, we also have a significant campus. And about 7-8 years ago, we set up Putrajaya campus, right? So we are in three locations. And if you look at it, three different cultural environments as well. So you've got the European culture, the Middle Eastern culture, and of course, Malaysia, truly Asia, right? So that's our location. I want to share with you and propose to you a program that we have that directly trains professional accountants. It's called the Masters of Arts MA Honours in Accounting and Business Finance, right? Some of you say, oh, that's an MA, yeah. But in Scotland, it's quite unique. We are called an ancient university. And we were one of the few universities were given the permission by the king at that time to actually offer Masters of Arts at undergraduate level, right? So let me be clear, this is not a postgraduate program, it's actually an undergraduate program, okay? So it's a 3-year undergraduate program. It's got double specialization or major in it. It majors in accounting and business finance. Now this program is accredited by the relevant professional bodies. So our curriculum meets the standards of the profession, and you will therefore get a maximum exemption from these professional bodies, right? So we have accreditation from ICAEW, ACCA, and CP Australia, all right? CIMA is more focused, it's a Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, so it's more focused on management accountants. Management accountants are those accountants that work in business, all right, and look at costing and budgeting, etc. So we have maximum exemptions from there. So for example, again, I'll just mention ACCA. So in ACCA's case, the exemption is a maximum 9 papers, and then you do another 4 papers, all right? And similar, the others are quite similar as well. In fact, for some of the professional bodies, you can also do your professional papers, one or two of them, during your final year as well. All right, so this is fully accredited by the professional bodies. Now, so what do we teach in there? So what sort of courses, what are things that you learn in there? I'll divide it into three things that you learn there. So number one is you will learn knowledge in accounting. So you study things like financial accounting, management accounting, taxation, auditing, right? You also study finance, okay? Corporate finance, financial management. But you also study non-accounting subjects such as law, such as statistics, and organizational behavior and things. So you also study, you have a firm foundation in business as well, okay? Not just specifically in the technical side of accounting. You don't just know it as by reading it and all that, you will also practice it, so you also know how to apply these knowledge and theories, all right? So and you do that in tutorials, in workshops. You also can join us in terms of what, if you want to start up anything, you can also help and mentor you in starting up things, all right? But the third thing we also offer, and third thing that you should always try to find in university education is this thing called being, right? And being, what does that mean? Being, well, seems like a very, very, flashy word, being, right? Very philosophical, okay? What that means is that you will also learn about how to strengthen your character building itself, how to be resilient, how to have a purpose in life, right? So that you are driven by this purpose, so that you are more resilient in your outlook. So we also have a program that helps you do that as well. And given the challenge that the accounting profession is facing with increasing governance and regulation, increasing globalization, you need strong people with strong characters leading these companies, okay? So you study all these three things. And for the being part, I just want to talk a little bit about that. We have a program called the Empower program, right? And this Empower program is embedded across all our degrees, right? And it has a formal program in the first year. The first semester that you join, you will be starting that Empower program. And that Empower program will help build your character and your resilience. And I'll give you an example. One of the first things that we ask you to do in the Empower program is when you come in is that to ask you, who are you and what's your purpose in life, right? And ask you to write out what we call an impact statement. An impact statement is, how are you going to impact the world, impact others? What are you going to do for the rest of your life? Right? Why is that important? Because of we believe strongly in what Mark Twain said many years ago, and he says that the two most important days in your life, right? The first day is when you were born. So all of us, when we are born, you are important, you are valid, right? No one is more important than others, right? So all of us, when we are born, there's a purpose, and we are here for a purpose. So it's an important day. But the second day is equally important, which is the day you find out your purpose in life. All right, what are you here for? And you must find that out. Some of us find it out quite late. So I found it out when I was in my almost 40s. Okay, but then I didn't know about Heriot-Watt, so I didn't come to Heriot-Watt University. But Heriot-Watt University, we sit you down and we said, think about it. What is your purpose and how will you impact? You may change that, that's fine, but you start thinking about it. So this is what we are doing, playing a small role in trying to ensure that students are not only knowledgeable and they know what to do, but they have the right mindset to actually achieve those goals, right? So that's what we have. The other thing, one other last thing is that because of our three main campuses that I shared with just now, and our philosophy is one university across three campuses and three countries, and our programs are all identical, right? So what you can consider doing if you join Heriot-Watt University is that, for example, you can spend 1 year in Malaysia, Putrajaya, start here. Parents want to check your behavior first year, right? And then once you prove yourself, you can go to Dubai for 1 year, second year, right? And then after that, final year, go to Edinburgh and graduate in Edinburgh. Okay, so you can actually do that. We call it the Go Global program, right? And you can do it freely. Okay, and you can do it even if you just want to do, you want to do 2.5 years or whatever, that's also possible. And similarly, you'll have a lot of Scottish students from Edinburgh now come over because they love the sunshine and also Malaysia, then they can go to other countries as well. So we have a lot of Scottish students on campus as well. So the point I'm trying to make here is that, again, Heriot-Watt University is playing its role in ensuring that your learning experience is multicultural, right? So you don't mix with, your Malaysians or even Asians. Okay, you mix with quite a diverse group of people. So that's our Go Global program. So that's my talk so far for the day. I have a few minutes left. So let me just summarize before I open to Q&A. So what I talked to you about is that the future of work is bright for the accounting profession. We need more accountants, not less of them, but we need the right skills. And the right skill set is not just knowledge in technical matters, but also in business and good soft skills, strong character and personality, right? Because it is a leadership position that you take on when you become an accountant, yeah? And it's no longer a bookkeeping job, okay? So we are not afraid of technology. Technology is going to make life easier for us in a way, because not so much easier, but I think is we don't have to do repetitive work, so it's less boring in that sense. But we now have more exciting, forward-looking, strategic things that we need to do. So I'm pretty, positive and encouraged by my own profession. Okay, I think it's on the right track. And second part of it is, what do you do? How do you study, right? So remember about the two pathways that you have. Okay, the two pathways is university pathway and the professional pathway. That's your choice, right? I never like to interfere with the choice. But the big question is, what do you want to, how would you want to learn the next 3 to 4 years? What sort of experience do you want, right? And you have money to spend, then you know what to do, okay? And I've shared with you a little bit about the programs that we offer at Heriot-Watt University, right? So thank you for hearing. Thank you, people on Facebook. If there's anyone, I'm not sure. So open for questions now. So we've got audience here in the room. And if you want to ask any questions, you can ask me directly. So audience in Facebook, you can ask questions on Pigeonhole. So I got a couple. Let me give the people in the room, right? Since they are very brave today, they came here. So do you have any questions in the room before I go to the Pigeonhole? So we cannot have this dead sound on Facebook Live, right? So what, going once, going twice, going 3 times, right? No, okay. So anyway, if you want to add on to the question, just raise your hand. But let me go into some of the questions. Okay, so I think what I'll do is I'll go to questions based on votes. So you guys at home, if you want the question answered, please go and vote. So the first question is, if I want to be a remisier, should I have an accounting degree? You don't really need an accounting degree to become a remisier. A remisier is someone that look at stock recommending buying and selling of stocks and all that. You don't really need an accounting profession, an accounting degree to do that. An accounting degree, of course, accounting degree itself may help you, because if you may need to understand the financials of the company in order to look at investing in that company. So it helps, but do you really need it? You may just need the accounting degree, but you don't really need the accounting profession. You don't have to pursue the professional bodies, right? But the knowledge might help you, but it's really not compulsory as far as I'm concerned. But it does help. Second question here is, what is an auditor? Do I need to be an accountant to be an auditor, or I can just be an I can just have an accounting degree to be an auditor. Now, to become an auditor, so first, who is an auditor? An auditor is someone that is required by law to go and inspect, right, and check the financial reports and also the internal controls of another company, right? So it's mandated by law that you need to do that. All companies need to have their financial reports audited and checked. Okay, why? Because these reports, especially for large companies, for public listed companies, people rely on this report to invest in your company, right? So if your report is not reliable, there are inaccuracies in there, I put money in your company, I lose money, right? Because the information is not right. Okay? If you are a smaller organization, then why do you need an auditor? Because maybe you want to borrow money from the bank, and therefore the bank needs to know what your financial position. So they need something that is reliable, not just you give them anything that you think, So again, someone needs to check. So therefore, the role of an auditor is ensure reliability. Now, if you're going to ensure reliability, you must be reliable. Right? So you must have and how do you ensure that you have reliability? Number one, you must be technically sound. You cannot check other people's books if you yourself not technically sound. Right? So that's one. Then the second thing, you must be well-trained and well-qualified, and you are independent. You must have and you conform the professional ethics and all that. So the answer to that question is, so who is an auditor? I've explained. Do I need to have an accounting degree or accounting professional qualification to become an auditor? Based on what I explained just now, is yes, right? So to become an auditor, you need not just an accounting degree, you need to have a professional qualification that is recognized by the Malaysian Institute of Accountants. Okay, and in fact, in addition to your accounting degree and your professional qualification, you also need to have a special license to become an auditor. All right, so there are a few more steps that you need to take. Okay, so if you do an accounting degree, you cannot be an auditor. Okay, at least you cannot sign off as an auditor. Okay, so that's the answer to that question. Is accounting hard? I don't like maths much. All right, so that's the third question. Is accounting hard? I don't know what hard means. Is it the opposite of soft? Is accounting soft? Right, and so is accounting hard? If people like accounting, it's not hard, right? So if you don't like accounting, then it becomes hard. Yeah. So it's challenging. Let's put it that way, right? And you need to be numeric, right? You don't need to have advanced knowledge in maths. So additional maths and all that is not really required. But you need to be numeric in a sense. You need to be comfortable with basic numbers, Yeah, if you are that sort, and I've seen people, when you see numbers, you get rashes all over, your eczema come out and everything, then perhaps accounting is not your cup of tea, right? So you need to be comfortable with numbers, not necessarily advanced level. And then, that's because it's dealing with numbers at the core of it, right? So that's the third question. The other question is, what's the minimum entry requirement to enter into the accounting program? So as I said, you need to, if you want to come to our Heriot-Watt University accounting degree, the 3-year MA in accounting and business finance, you need to have a pre-university qualification. All right, and the pre-university qualification can be any university qualification. And essentially, the entry requirement, we have published it. You can check the entry requirement, but you need to have a reasonably good pre-university qualification, right? So I think it varies. If you are doing OSMAT and things like that, I think it's about 70%. Sorry? Yeah, and then we also have our own foundation program, right? For a foundation program, you need to have 4 C's to get in, yeah? And then, but you need, in order to get into our foundation program, then you need an SPM, right? And you need to have 5 credits in your SPM to enter into our foundation. But the other thing with the accounting, business, and finance is because, as I said just now, we need people who are reasonably comfortable with maths. So there's a requirement to have a B in your maths at SPM level, right? And also you need to have a credit in English as well. Okay, so that's the entry requirement for our degree program. Okay, so let's come back to the audience here. We're almost done in time. Any last questions in the room? Yes, sir.
What is the recognized entry for professional membership in MIA?
The recognized entry for the degree?
I mean, to be a chartered accountant in Malaysia.
So to be a chartered accountant in Malaysia, there are many pathways, right? So there is pathways based on schedules in the Accountants Act. Okay, so the first one is that if you have a Bachelor of Accounting degree from any public universities, and those are normally the public universities will have it. They are normally the 4-year Bachelor of Accountancy. So if you have that degree, then you can straight go to MIA. But for the others, like most private universities where they have 3-year degree programs, then what you need to do is you need to have a recognized professional qualification. What are the professional qualifications? You have people like ACCA, ICAW, CPA Australia, CIMA, and all that. So you need to get that before you can be allowed to go into the Malaysian Institute of Accountants. So maybe what I'll do is go straight to the relevance here. So if you come and do our Heriot-Watt University degree, you graduate with an MA in Accounting and Business Finance. You need to do one of the international professional qualification. First, get that qualification, and then you will be able to get into MIA. There's no further exam beyond that, right? So the quick answer that you need to have the relevant international professional qualification for a typical 3-year accounting degree. So it's a degree plus one of the professional bodies, anyone will do, right? And then you become MIA. ACCA, ICAW, CIMA, CIMA, CPA Australia, yeah. Sorry?
UK is under ACCA.
Yeah, ACCA and ICAW is UK. CIMA is also UK. CPA is Australia, obviously. Yeah.
The American ones are not?
American ones, no. Yeah. All right. I think so. So I think our time's up. For those who are around, we can still continue to have discussions. But for those live on Facebook, I thank you all for tuning in and listening. I hope it's been useful to you guys. And I'll see you guys around, hopefully in Heriot-Watt. Come over. See you. Bye. Thank you so much. Do you all have any other questions you want to ask?
Just a few minutes so that I can get start ready.
Yeah.